Big Zay!
Morning, Brad.
Morning, boys. What's going on?
Well, you got the story. You were out there. You know all the goings on with the Bears. What is your take on what you're hearing specifically out of Baltimore? Is this idea that Lamar Jackson, with his hamstring damaged, hasn't practiced since September 28th? They're back off the bye, and he is a non-participant. Does that mean anything to you? Do you think him beginning his prep on Wednesday is enough time for him to be able to go, or will he miss Wednesday? Could it be later in the week before we get a decision on Lamar Jackson? I know John Harbaugh said last week that he was going to be back on Monday. Guess what? He wasn't back on Monday.
Yeah, that was the wrinkle that the Ravens had yesterday and what amounted to sort of their bonus practice to get coming out of the bye week, that he was not available. And yeah, it's a really good question. Obviously, Vegas line odds makers weren't overly concerned about it, as the Baltimore remained like a 6.5 and someplace 7-point favorite, but something to keep an eye on there, because his availability is huge for this game, for Baltimore's season. I mean, however you want to look at it, they desperately need him out there, and he's the kind of guy that would make a big difference. I think it's a ball game and the Bears' preparation and everything. Could he return to practice Wednesday, be limited, and play on Sunday? Sure, he's got a ton of experience. I don't think it's he needs the extra practice of the week. But that was eye-opening yesterday. You're right.
So I think Ben Johnson opened a few eyes. Just maybe we should be used to it by now, but it was still startling. He talked about Theo Benedict, and he said he was inconsistent, to say the least, which I would have loved to have been in that film room just to hear him say the most, because it wasn't a great game by Benedict. And I just wondered, yes, we're used to the candor, Brad. Is that still a week-to-week proposition? Do you think that they are going to let Theo Benedict play through some of these rough spots, or is this a potential situation where Braxton Jones could be somebody that they take another look at?
Well, I don't think they want to get into a revolving door there at left tackle. And he was asked in a follow-up question, well, does this mean that, there's kind of a short leash for Theo? Because he made it pretty clear going into the season it was a short leash for Braxton. And he said, if someone's not pulling their weight, they've got to make a decision, but that they believe Theo's going to continue to get better with more time on task at that left tackle position. He gave credit to Chase Young of the Saints, who he was going against. I got news for him. Theo Benedict's going to face some guys that are a lot more challenging than Chase Young in the second half of this season. But they think the more time he spends there, the better he will get. So I don't think we're on the verge of a move there at this point. No, but is he? You take your Sharpie and write down their depth chart right now. No, you probably need to keep it on the dry erase board. But I don't see him making a move anytime real soon.
I'm curious about what he said about the return of the injured defensive end. Did you get a sense that they like the guys they have up right now, meant that there's a possibility that Austin Booker would not be returning? He said he's going to help us. Doesn't he have a week to make a decision on that? Doesn't he have to be activated, or he will not be returning from IR? How does it work?
Well, they've got a 21-day window, and the 21-day window actually stretches beyond Sunday's game at Baltimore. So they could
activate him after the game. Yeah.
Yeah, like this time next week, I think is when it's going to expire. My guess is they activate him for this game. Like, he's going to be back on the 53-man roster, barring something totally unexpected, the knee injury recurring, or some new injury from practice. He's going to be back on the 53-man roster. And the other guys have played well. Certainly, you can't argue with the results they got from the defense in Sunday's game against the Saints. I think one thing you had going there too is they had, and I don't know if it was directly connected, but it's certainly possible. They had a special teams issue for that game because they cleared the roster spot with Tano, pulling him off the 53, and they were down Noah Sewell, who's a core special teams player when he's not starting in place of TJ Edwards. He's out with a concussion, so you got to fill a core spot there, and Homer was available to come back off of IR as well, and he was the guy. Like, they've got some roster juggling to do here because the linebacker Imagn Ogbongbemiga, he's a week behind Booker in terms of a return from the IR, and he's another core guy for them in that special teams room that's been paid some money. So it'll be interesting to see how they move roster parts around to create a spot for Imagn and for Austin Booker as well.
Brad, true or false, by the end of the season, Kyle Manungai will be the rookie that has contributed the most to the Bears?
Boy. Yeah, I mean, you certainly hope that's false, right?
I think so. I believe that you would like other guys, especially your first-round draft pick, to be a bigger part of the passing game. But you look at, here we are 6 games in. Loveland has not been that guy who's been a factor. Burden gets.
I don't blame him. I don't blame Loveland for that.
Well, I don't either. But I'm just saying that the fact is that Kyle Manungai is in a position where they're counting on him more than they're counting on others.
Well, it better be the tight end at some point.
Yeah, I want to see Manungai over a bigger. I think we're really jumping the gun, even having this conversation about Kyle coming out of the Saints. Like, that's a bad football team. Okay, and the Bears played well. They got a bunch of extra possessions. They ran the heck out of the ball. And Manungai did a really nice job. We haven't, prior to that, it's been, why isn't Roquan getting the ball? Or why aren't they going to give Manungai the ball more? They're not going to have quite as much run volume as they did on Sunday in every game. But I think the split there is important to note because, DeAndre Swift, I think we talked about it on occasion last season. You want to keep him probably at about 250 carries. Like, that's sort of, I think, the sweet spot, the ceiling for where you want him. Could he handle more? Sure. Would he want more? No doubt. If you want to get the best you can out of him, I think that's the figure you're looking at for the season. He's on pace right now for about 252 or 253. So being able to balance those carries out and get Manungai involved is helpful. And when Manungai produces and he's out there, it makes the whole thing work even better for you.
Did you get the sense out of the way he talked about Caleb Williams that there is no fear that they're not going to get more explosive plays, or that game will carry over beyond 1 week, or if there's any concern in terms of Fields being more passenger than driver in that victory?
Yeah, I don't think they're concerned about it. They do a really good job of kind of keeping each week in a silo, and obviously you move to the next week with things you want to emphasize in practice and in meetings that have come out of the game, but you're quickly getting on to the Baltimore Ravens. At this time next week, they will quickly be getting on to the Cincinnati Bengals. So they're not stuck in what happened and maybe didn't go well out of that ball game. I'm sure there's plenty of coaching points that they've already hit, and really the next time they get together with the players, it's going to be all about Baltimore. One of the players I was talking to after the game said, they got in there afterward and they put music on for like a song or two, and then it's like, okay, that's enough. We're moving on. So I don't think they're worried about carryover. They just want to emphasize, certain things in practice, and it's probably stuff that goes all the way back to the basics, footwork, to clean things up, because they've got to start being more efficient throwing the football, and that's not drive to drive. That's week to week. Like you need to see that improve, because it's really in some respects it's kind of where it was a year ago, and believe it or not, the completion percentage is actually a slight tick below where Caleb was as a rookie.
So Lamar Jackson did not practice, but Roquan Smith did, and he is eyeing a return against the Bears. He's been out with a hamstring problem. He certainly is needed. They're giving up 32 points a game, and that's a porous defense. I just wonder, what do you think about the return of Roquan Smith, the impact on this game, and how that trade has aged?
Well, Roquan's going to have an impact on the game. I mean, he's had this thing circled for a while, and boy, you talk about a team that's just been killed by injuries. Like they got hit really, really hard. How's that trade aged? I know that's a pastime for some, is assigning wins and losses in trades, and it's the Bears basically replaced Roquan with Tremaine Edmonds, who Tremaine Edmonds in the last 4 games has been fantastic. He's had more tackles in the last 4 games than he's had in any 4-game stretch in his career. He's gotten to the quarterback on occasion. He's got 3 interceptions on the season. He's played at a higher level than he certainly did in his first 2 seasons with the Bears. I think everybody would probably agree with that. But if you take a close look at it, I think there's a greater discrepancy between the play of Roquan and Tremaine and the pay. Like, Edmonds' deal it's 1 year shorter than Roquan's. Roquan got a 5-year deal, but Roquan's, at $20 million a year, and Edmonds is at $18 million a year. They don't look like items that, if they were next to each other on the shelf, would be priced that closely together to me. And you say, okay, well, the Bears also sent like $4 million to Baltimore to pay down the contract at the time of the trade. The Bears get a 2nd-round pick and a 5th-round pick that turned into Javon Dexter and Noah Sewell. And yeah, it's not I don't think you can look at this and say the trade's been a win for the Bears. Roquan's fantastic in Baltimore, all pro the previous 2 seasons. Him being hurt this year has certainly marred this season for him. But I will say one thing, and I wrote it the other day coming out of the game, guys. Ryan Poles, people at the time were critical of him for not getting an extension done with his best player, Roquan Smith. And justifiably so in a lot of ways, right? And it was a tricky situation. Everybody knows they didn't have an agent. But you go back and you look at that, and Roquan was in the 5th-year option of his contract. He had gotten there playing for the guy who drafted him, Ryan Pace. There was a ample period of time for the previous general manager, Pace, to get that extension done with Roquan as well, and he wasn't able to, or somehow didn't get it done. So I think that's been probably lost in a lot of the discussion as to, well, why wasn't this great Bear, and he was a great Bear.
Still a bad trade.
Yeah, well, yeah, if you had hit a home run in the 2nd round with that pick you got, you could justify it. Like Javon
They didn't, though. I'm just saying.
No.
It's still a bad trade.
Right. But I'm just saying, Poles isn't the only guy that failed to get the deal done, and people seem to overlook the fact that Pace couldn't get that deal done either, and he's the guy that had drafted him.
This is a crazy question, but I just saw some people commenting on his return, and it made me wonder, would he get another contract there, or could they try to move him and get something for him? Is there any way that he doesn't end his career in Baltimore?
Oh, I mean, well, sure, that's possible. I mean, the Ravens are pretty sharp. But Baltimore is one of those teams that does a good job of making real shrewd decisions. Yeah, this guy's been really good for us, but we'll play the compensatory pick game. We'll replace him in the draft, or we drafted a guy last year that's already going to replace him. The super highly run organizations have a knack at times for getting rid of a player 1 year too soon rather than 1 year too late. But healthy Roquan Smith back on the field is still in the prime of his career. I wouldn't waste time thinking about him getting out of Baltimore.
Brad, with Jake Moody doing what no other Bears kicker has done, and that's having 2 games with 4 field goals in each of those games, what's next? What is the health status of Cairo Santos, and are they concerned at all about losing Jake Moody if they have to stash him on the practice squad when Santos returns?
Well, Santos is the kicker when he's healthy. So is that this week or at some point in the future he's going to be the guy? The decision, they'll be able to move Moody back to the 53 from the practice squad one more time if need be. You get 3 elevations for practice squad players. They've used 2 for Jake Moody. If the injury lingers for Cairo, if it's not quite cleared up, then they'd have to get in a position where for a temporary period, you'd have to carry 2 kickers on your 53-man roster. Would be not ideal, but it would be something that they would have to consider unless the Cairo thing was to a point where they didn't think it was going to clear up soon and they were to perhaps IR him. In terms of losing Moody, yeah, that would be a possibility. And you could look at that and wonder what that means moving forward. Certainly they deserve some credit for putting him on the practice squad in the first place back in week 2. I think the idea was to maybe look at him in the off season, and they would have gotten a heck of a lot out of him if he kicks for him and kicks well in 3 games.
Great stuff, Brad. Much appreciated, buddy.
Thanks, Brad. Have a great day.